All right, guys, we are back again, and so we'll do some examples here. Since we didn't get all the way to multiple tables, I'll go ahead and keep it with just the one table here this time. But next time I'll have a second table, or third rather, to deal with. So, all right. So here, if you remember, I created last time we met. I created this thing called my table, right? And I basically was basing it off of this whole IMDb thing, and don't check me on this. Most of this data is not correct. I'm pretty sure the Avengers was directed by somebody other than someone great, but so. I've added a couple of more titles here, a couple more movies, and I've added a column for budget. I wanted to add another what's it called? Numerical column, so that we could do some fun stuff with the budgets here, with the queries here. Okay, all right. So let's just kind of roll through some of the things that we've learned here. So if I wanted to, now remember the name of this table is my table. I'm sorry I named it such a bad name, but simple question. Let's go with a simple one to start with. If I wanted to just look at all the rows, all the columns from the table, what would I write? Like what SQL statement could I write? All right. And when I clicked on the SQL, it went ahead and put the answer up there for you. That's great. Okay. Thank you, MySQL. Now, some of you may be saying, wait a second, what's up with this part, the where one? Now remember, the where clause is the conditional, right? The where clause is the condition statement, like the if statement, right? MySQL, for whatever reason, wants to always have a conditional to deal with, right? Now, we could remove that. We could leave it in. It doesn't matter. But it's kind of a reminder to us that it's not very common that when we're running queries like in a user interface or in an application, that it's not very common that there won't be some condition we're dealing with. It's very uncommon that we're just getting all the rows of all the tables and everything like that. Okay, so but where one is simply, it's kind of like saying where true from Java. Okay, so if we take that out, that's okay. Also, another thing is you'll see these tick marks here. Those are not necessary. We don't have to have those. We can. We don't have to. Okay, so if we run this, all right, select star from my table, we're just going to get all of the rows, all the columns. Something else I want to point out, we talked about this whole formatting thing. For your homework, for your exams and stuff like that, what I would like you to do, get into the habit of doing, and for your project, for when you present your project at the end of the semester, what I'd like you to get in the habit of doing is formatting your queries like this. Okay. And again, we tried to say, make sure that this part lines up. So if you have space from over twice and where over once, and what you end up with is this where, yeah, there's a little bit of unevenness over here on the left side, but notice this stuff all lines up. And when we start getting into when we start getting into adding more tables where stuff like this, right? I haven't found one on PHP MyAdmin Torana, but I would imagine there's something out there that allows you to do it. Usually what I do whenever the SQL first comes up, let me go ahead and show that. So this will become much more easy to deal with, and you'll see why. Because especially as we start having a table list, what we might do is like this, all right, where it stays together, and then same thing with this here, where right, where they kind of all stay lined up together. Okay, there might be one available online. I've not found one. What I'll show you, what I usually do with this stuff is, okay, is I just go ahead and delete that to start with, because that's probably not what I'm trying to write a query to do anyway. And so I'll just start from scratch, and then I'll just start typing it. Select. So here's an example. We just want the title and runtime. All right. My table and no where clause. We just want that. I just start typing it out and format it as I type it out. Okay. That's what I usually do in these things. So we click go. So we're getting the title and the minutes. All right. So we just got all the titles, all the minutes. All right. Let's see. I want to see all the genres. I want to see from my table. I'm going to copy that and use that in just a second. Because if you see, like, there's some overlap here, right? There's some science fiction shows up twice, action shows up twice. What I really probably wanted was what? I probably just wanted to know what specific, what individual genres, what distinct genres there are, right? So if I use the distinct keyword, right? And I'm going to copy this again because I'm going to show you guys something else here in just a moment. See, now we've got the distinct genres. So science fiction, even though it's in my database twice, it only shows up in this query once. Okay. I want to show you that if I do a lowercase distinct, it runs the same way, right? It does the same thing. Again, SQL, not case sensitive. Distinct all lowercase, distinct all uppercase are the same. Now, you'll see here in the MySQL stuff, it takes those keywords and it makes them purple, right? Just like our Java IDEs do, where they take those Java keywords and they highlight them, they make them different colors, you know, like public, int, stuff like that. It makes it a different color. But you know, not all SQL programs do that, and not especially when we start writing these queries as part of our Java programs or our Python programs or our PHP programs. Those won't highlight these stuff as well. The formatting that we talked about here, where you take the select and make it all caps, take distinct and make it all caps, take from and make it all caps, take my table and genre and make them all lowercase. This helps when we're reading our queries, say like in a notepad or something like that. It helps us to be able to see very quickly what is a SQL keyword and what is or a reserved word, and what is a user-defined word. Okay. All right, so this helps us find those things very quickly. Functionally, there's no difference. All right, they will function the same query will run the same way. Visually, it really helps us to be able to understand what's a reserved word and what's not. Okay, so that's a distinct. All right, let's talk a little bit more about some other stuff. Let's see. We want to know. Okay, I got one for you. We want to know the longest movie in the table. We want to know the longest movie, the one that has that if we sat down to watch it, we'd have to wait the longest before it was over. Okay, how could we do that? All right, good. Okay, so max. So we're going to have to use max, but max what? Runtime? I don't see a column called runtime. Right. Make sure you use the right thing over here. Now, one thing that this MySQL will allow us to do is we put our cursor there and we could double click that and it'll put it in there for us. Okay. And you guys may have also been seeing that I've been doing this as well. That as I start typing, it will come up here as well. Okay. So it's like our IDEs will allow it to do that to us. Okay. All right. So select the longest runtime is 180 minutes. Notice we don't know which movie this is, right? We don't know which movie are we going to be sitting around the longest to watch. The only thing we know is that the longest movie is 3 hours long, right? We will look on Monday. We'll look at how we can use this as part of a what's called a sub query. Toronto, okay, I'm interested to understand. Okay, so go ahead and tell me how you might write that out, because I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't think I understand. Where you're saying we could do select.
Sorry, can I be heard?
Sure.
Yes, so we can, for example, choose the movie name, select, for example, let's say title. So where the minutes, max.
Equals max.
Yeah, can we write it like that?
See, the problem is, if I try to run this, I'm not. Oftentimes, when let me tell you one thing I do here too. This is a habit. This is a habit of mine. Is anytime I'm trying to write out a query, I'm not quite sure if it's going to run what I want it to. What I'll do is before I run it, is I'll highlight it and I'll copy it, Control C, and I'll copy that so that I don't have to type all that out again. That's one problem with MySQL, is that it makes you it always comes back to this page. So let's see, equals max. No, see the column there is no column max. Now we could try this. Let's see if this would work. I think this might be what you're saying. And MySQL may have gotten smart since the last time I used it, but last time I would have used it, this would have resulted in an error. Yeah. See, we can't use the group, this aggregate function, as part of the where clause, unfortunately. Now, what we will look at on Monday is how we can use the query we just talked about, this max, the select max minutes from my table, how we can use that as part of what's called a subquery to be able to get the title. Okay. But as of right now, using just a normal query on a single table, we cannot find out what the title is based on the max minutes. Now, what we could do is we could go back to the main table and look for something that's 180 minutes and say, oh, there it is. It's the Avengers. Okay. So we can do it that way. All right. But that was good. I'm good thinking that way. Okay. So you guys did the max minutes. Good. Okay. What about the smallest budget? The smallest the smallest amount of time. Sorry, the amount of money that it costs. We want to know the right min. So we're going to do min of budget. My table, right? And the reason why I wanted to use these both is because this budget and minimum budget and maximum maximum minutes is because one of the things that we talked about was using these calculated fields, right? Where we said like the salary, where if you had the salary divided by 12, if you go back and look at slide 22 on the lecture 4 slides, but notice that in that calculated field, they only said some column divided by some literal value, 12. But we don't have to only do literal values. What we could do is we could say, hey, you know what I really would like to know? I'd like to know the title. Bashar, that's a good question. In our current table, it cannot, but you're right that in a true movie database system, a movie would have multiple genres because you could have comedy romance and you could have which my wife really likes and I'm always stuck watching those. We could have action and science fiction, right? So you're right, you can have multiple genres. In our current setup, we can't because it's a single table. But one of the things we'll talk about when we get to the normalization lectures in a few weeks is we'll talk about how we can take a movie and give it multiple genres and what would be the proper way to represent that. How would we do that with our tables? All right, so we'll talk about that. Just good question. You're a few weeks ahead of me. Okay. All right, so what I want to know though, in our example I'm giving here is I want to know the title. I want to know the genre. And I want to know how much did this movie cost to make per minute, right? So if it was 100 minutes and it cost $100, that's a $1 per minute, right? So I want to find out how much did it cost per minute. How can we do that? Right, yeah. So we would do budget divided by minutes. And we'll come back to that as thing in just a moment. Again, I'm going to highlight this and copy it because I may use it again in just a moment. All right. Now, one thing that MySQL does is it goes ahead and gives us that that column name right here as our formula, what our formula was. But this special character / can cause us some problems, and other special characters like star and plus and stuff like that can cause us some problems. So what a lot of databases will do is they'll just give this a random name like call 4 or call 3 or value 1 or whatever. So as Suleiman has suggested, what we're going to do is we're actually going to give it a real value, okay? Notice something else here. For those of you who have done my Java course and done some good Java stuff, both budget and minutes are both integer columns, right? They're both integer columns, and yet when we divided them, we got a decimal number, right? You'll remember from our Java days, from our Java discussions, that wasn't always the case, right? Two integers, well, it never was the case. When you did an integer divided by another integer, you always got another integer, right? In SQL, though, it's going to go ahead and do the decimal division always, okay? We can do a round function or a floor function to be able to get that down to something else, but it will do that decimal division instead, okay? Oh, good question. Mustafa, that's a good question. Let's find out. Let's see. Let's insert a new. Mustafa, give me a movie. What's your favorite movie? Machine. I haven't heard of that one. Let's give it a runtime of, I don't know, 130 minutes. Actually, let's give it something that already exists in our thing. Director, I'll put you as the director. Genre, I'm assuming this is science fiction. And we won't put any value for the budget. Okay, let's make sure this works. You know what? I think I made it to where it wasn't allowed to be. Let's see if I. See if it allows that. It gave me a budget of 0. You know what? I think I didn't allow null values in budget. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Let me change this. Nullable. There we go. Save. All right. You guys are about to see some advanced stuff. Actually, let me change minutes to be able to be null too. Okay. And you're about to see a query that you shouldn't know about yet. Update. Also, I'm not doing correct formatting, so don't. All right, that should work. Okay. There we are. Okay, good. It's null. All right. So let's go back and see what happens when budget divided by minutes. We'll see what happens with a null value there. It's also null. Okay. So if we think about it, that makes sense, right? Because what is null? Null is unknown. We don't know what the value is. So if we have an unknown value divided by a known value, what do we get? Also still an unknown value, right? Let's do one. Let's see. Suleiman, you responded with the Alex Garland as the director. You give me another movie. What's your What's your movie you'd like to add to our database? And it's gonna be no minutes. Venom, I haven't seen that one. I've heard it's got mixed reviews. Who's the director? I'll put you as the director. Genre, we'll call it action because we have a lot of science fiction already. Okay. Let's go ahead and add that. All right, so now we'll see we have Venom with null minutes. So if we run our query again, what's our budget divided by minutes? We should expect that for Venom, what's it going to be? For Venom, what should we expect the cost per minute would be? No, yep. Because if it's unknown number of minutes, but we have a known budget, we have an unknown cost per minute. And one thing you'll see here is what I did was I added this as part as, who was it? Suleiman, you also suggested this earlier, is that we want to give that column a good name that we can use, because one of the things that we'll use these queries for is we'll use them in a user interface application, what we call the front end. We'll use the query there and it will return a result set, kind of like an array or an array list or something like that. And it will return a result set. And when we get that result set, we will access each value by its name, by its attribute name. Okay. And so what we would like to do is we would like to have an attribute name that we can hold on to. Cost per minute is division. Yes, it's not integer division. It will be decimal division. So what you'll see here when we run this is we get this column called cost per minute. It has decimal values, and again, right, yes, a floating point number. Yes, it's not an integer. So we see cost per minute for these. Where is that? Oh, is that on the previous page? That's good. I didn't notice that before. Guess I got so used to just. You're saying on this page? Retain query box. Ah, nice. Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Fatih. All right, so good. So I can keep my query around. Good job. All right. So, okay. Learn something new every day. All right. So here, notice again, our null values, if we have a null minutes or a null budget, then we're going to get a null cost per minute. Okay. But this is a way that we can use a calculated thing here. Okay. Let's see. I want to give a couple of examples involving the where clause before we have to leave. So let's see. I want to get the I want to get the title of all movies I mean, the title and the director of all movies, where the genre is a specific value is what? Maybe action. I want to just get all the action movies. Okay. So notice here. Notice that the genre I asked for, I didn't have to put it in the select box, in the select part of the query. So what I know is that I have this title and this director, and what I don't see here is the genre, but that's okay because I know what the genre is, right? I know that these are all action movies. Now, what if I did this? Let's see what, actually, I do think MySQL allows for this, but let's see. Yeah, okay. So MySQL does allow for a literal like this, lowercase and uppercase, to be this treated as the same. One thing I want to make a note of, not all database utilities allow for this. When I was using Oracle many years ago, it would not have seen a lowercase a and an uppercase a as the same. Okay, so all right, let's see. What if I wanted to get all action movies and comedies? Well, I can use that in keyword. Now I get all of the actions and the comedies. But now notice that by not having that genre column as part of my select, now I don't know which ones are which. Right? So you may need to add that. So now we know which ones are which. Okay. Let's see. Oh, pattern matching. Let's do a good pattern matching one. Okay. I want to get all the columns. So I'm going to just show you, okay, star gives me all the columns. And I want where the title, like, I want to get a title where it has Venn in it. Okay. I want where the title like Venn. Now notice we got both Avengers and Venom. Okay, right? We would expect that because Venn shows up here, Venn shows up here. Okay. Now, what if we just said, okay, I want it to be this. Take that % off. Now what we'll expect to see is only Venom. Yes, that's right. Because now the Avengers don't show up there. Okay. Now, if we use the underscore, okay, give me 1 second, Tarana. So if we did that as an underscore, and if we ran this query, we would get no rows, right? Because it would expect one character after the VEN. But if I do a second one, this should give me my Venom, right? Yep, because there's 2 characters after the VEN. So then the question would be here, what we would say is, what if I wanted Ven, but I didn't want it to start with Ven. I wanted it to start with something have then in it. Basically what I'm getting at is this. I want it to have something else that starts with then, because if it has then in it but doesn't start with then. Okay. So what I want this. I want Avengers because it has the VEN in it, but it has at least one character before the VEN appears. There's a couple of ways that we can do this. Okay. What do you guys think? Give me some ideas. Yep. Okay. Okay. Now I will say for this particular example, both of those answers, Fatih Furkan and Nisa Huya, both of them will work. Well, actually, you need the percent at the end, but other than that, both of them will work. But the reason why is because there is only one character before Avengers. What if instead I said, okay, you know what I want? I want not the V. I want EN. Okay. That won't work. Right? The only one that comes back is Venom because it looks for one character, then EN, then the percent, then any characters after that. But Fatih, if I do your example there, if I put that percent in, then if we think about what this is doing, it's saying 0 or more characters. So it could be no characters, but it could be any characters here. One character, and then EN. So what it's going to look for is something that has EN in it, but starts with something else. So we should get Avengers, we should get Venom, and we may get something that we don't even expect, but nope, there's nothing else there. Okay, so notice now this A would be part of that percent, the V would be that underscore, and then EN is there. Same thing here, no characters is part of that percent, the V is that character before EN, and then we have the EN there as well. Okay. One more with the time we have left, and then I will finish off with your question, Tarana. Is I want to do that null search. And what is possible? Let's see. I want to get everything from my table where minutes is null. Right. So we got our one title where our minutes are not null. Okay. Or we could say I want where it's not null. So now we get all of the things that are not the null values. Notice we still get the budget that's null because that wasn't part of our condition. We didn't ask for where budget was not null, but we can do that. We can say I want where minutes is not null and budget is not null. So now I'm going to get minutes values, budget values. Okay. And at the risk of being wrong, it is possible that sometimes these technologies get more advanced. Remember, these slides that I'm using are based on a text that's a number of years old. So let's see what happens when we do where minutes equals null. Okay, no results. Where minutes equals null. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that. Let's see. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that, it'll give us some type of error. I'm not sure which one. It'll give me an error, something about the formatting, I'm sure. Yeah, operand should contain one column. So we'll have to have one column on this side, unfortunately. It'd be nice if it could work that way, right? What was I going to do with this? There's not null, there's null stuff. There was one other thing I wanted to do. Oh, remember what I said with this where condition is true or false, whatever is null is null. So I'm saying, okay, I want to get all situations where null is null. This should be true, right? So this should give me all records. But again, if I said null equals null, this should give me no records. Yep, no rows. Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's the same thing as that if you have something is null, Tirana, whatever's on this side can only be a single column. Now, what we could do is the fact that both are numeric columns, we can kind of do. We could do a mathematical operation on them, right? Where budget plus minutes is just the number plus the other number. And if we run that, then we'll get anything that involves a null calculation. Okay. All right, so anything that results in a non-null calculation. Now I can tell you that that gets you the right answer, but it kind of is a bit confusing as what it's doing, and it may not always work the way that you expect it to. But we used the fact that both of those columns are numeric, right, to be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to do that with some other column. So like if I try to do title here, I should get an error. Oh, maybe not. Guess you can add numbers and strings. MySQL allows you to add numbers and strings, apparently. Okay. Well, we're out of time, actually, unfortunately. But Tirana, you did have another question. I can keep this running if you want to ask your question about the max as part of the condition. But since it's 10:20, I need to be able to let anyone who needs to leave can leave. And you and I can continue to have that discussion if you want to. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll end the class there. And on Monday when we come back, we'll hopefully finish the initial SQL discussion. And I would like to be able to I didn't get to all the examples that I would like to do. I didn't get to do ordering or I did do some aggregate functions, but I didn't get to do as many as I would have liked. So on Monday, we'll finish the SQL discussion, and next week we'll move into advanced SQL as well, the data definition language, create tables and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and end the recording there, and yeah, have a good afternoon, have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.